minus 800 points on the Dow in a single day, S&P and Nasdaq in the red, Bitcoin Snova testing the zone below $65,000, ETFs recording outflows, the fear index sliding into extreme territory. On the surface, it looks like a standard correction, but the real question isn't the drop itself. Is this the beginning of a deeper bear regime or the final phase of deleveraging before stabilization? Today we'll break down what's actually happening with markets, liquidity, and capital flows. Before we begin, this is not financial advice. Everything I say reflects my personal view and judgment. Use it as an additional perspective, not as a call to action. The first thing to lock in: this isn't crypto falling, this is a synchronized risk-off move. You can see it directly in the tape. On February 23rd, the Dow closed at 48,804, down minus 1.66%, after being at 49,626 just 3 days earlier. The S&P 500 fell minus 1.04% after a prior day gain, and the Nasdaq dropped minus 1.13%. The pressure was concentrated in financials: JP Morgan minus 4.1%, Goldman minus 3.2%, American Express minus 7.2%. When banks and financial companies underperform the broader index, the market is repricing the cost of capital and earnings durability, not just panicking. The key external driver is tariff uncertainty. The White House introduced a temporary 10% import tariff for 150 days under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974, which allows tariffs up to 15% for that duration. This followed a Supreme Court ruling that struck down the previous mechanism under IEEPA, forcing the administration to restructure the legal framework. For markets, the issue isn't just the percentage, it's the abrupt shifts in legal architecture. Alliance Trade estimates that a 10% average tariff could add roughly plus 1 percentage point to CPI by Q1 2027. That's not just a margin risk, it's a potential inflation impulse. At the same time, technological pressure is building. IBM fell more than 10% after Anthropic highlighted Claude's ability to optimize COBOL code, the backbone of many banking and government systems. The broader SaaS sector is already in a bear phase, with the IGV ETF roughly 35% below its October peak. Cybersecurity stocks are also under pressure following AI tool announcements. With every major model upgrade, investors are forced to reassess business necessity and pricing power. The market is simultaneously pricing tariff-driven margin compression and structural AI disruption. In crypto, this translates into deleveraging. BTC trades near $63,000, with the $60,000 to $70,000 range defining the battlefield, and $60,000 acting as key support. Total crypto market cap sits around $2.19 trillion, down minus 2.7% in 24 hours. U.S. spot Bitcoin ETFs saw minus $203.8 million in net outflows on February 23rd and minus $519.7 million over the week. The institutional channel is not offsetting spot and derivatives pressure. Liquidations reached about $590 million in a single day, roughly 92% from longs. Fear and greed at 11 signals extreme fear. This is not just weakness. This is leverage compression and buyer retreat. Meanwhile, DXY stands near 97.8, the US 10Y yield around 4.04%, and markets still expect the Fed rate to remain in the 3.50% to 3.75% range. There is no aggressive easing priced in. The cost of capital remains meaningful, reinforcing the risk-off tone. And this is the transition point. Tariffs, AI risks, rates, ETF outflows. These are symptoms. The root cause is always liquidity regime. When the buyer returns, markets stabilize even under bad headlines. When the buyer structurally disappears, every headline becomes a catalyst for decline. So the next step isn't to analyze the news flow. It's to analyze liquidity itself and understand through which channels it is currently transmitting into the market. If you look at the current phase through a historical lens, the market is behaving in a fairly predictable way. In 2018, when the Fed raised rates to 2.5% and liquidity began tightening, the S&P lost nearly 13.5% in Q4, while BTC printed its cyclical low during the same period. That was a classic combination: high cost of capital and no expansion of the monetary base. In 2020, the scenario was different. In March, everything collapsed: equities, gold, Bitcoin, because there was an immediate dollar liquidity shortage. But then the Fed launched aggressive QE. M2 began growing at double-digit rates, and over the next 12 months, BTC delivered exponential gains, not because of narrative, but because of balance sheet expansion. In 2022, the picture reversed again. M2 turned negative for the first time in decades, policy rates moved above 4%, and BTC dropped more than 70% from its peak. That wasn't disappointment in crypto, it was monetary contraction. Now about gold and silver. Historically, gold begins to outperform risk assets when markets price in either an inflation impulse or declining confidence in policy. In 2019, amid trade war tensions, gold gained around 18% despite moderate equity growth. In 2020, during QE, it made new all-time highs. Silver, gold's more volatile counterpart, tends to move more aggressively in inflationary phases. Between March 2020 and its peak in 2021, silver rose nearly 126%. But in 2022, under tightening conditions, silver lagged as industrial demand cooled. Right now, capital is looking for protection. Gold is supported by trade uncertainty and the potential inflation impulse from 10% tariffs. According to Allianz trade estimates, such tariffs could add roughly plus 1 percentage point to CPI by Q1 2027. That means markets are simultaneously repricing inflation trajectories and real yields. At this moment, we are between two scenarios. The first is inflationary. Tariffs lift price pressures, real yields begin to fall, defensive assets attract steady inflows, and risk stabilizes gradually. The second is contractionary. Corporate earnings are revised downward, liquidity does not expand, rates remain elevated, and pressure on equities and crypto persists. This fork determines whether the current phase is cleansing before stabilization or the beginning of a deeper downtrend. But this is not a structural breakdown. Infrastructure is not collapsing. The monetary base is not contracting like in 2022. And there is no systemic credit cascade. That's why the key marker from here is not headlines or fear, but flows. If ETF outflows stabilize, if real yields begin to decline, if the dollar enters a sustained weakening phase, the regime can shift quickly. If the cost of capital remains high and flows stay negative, pressure may last longer than markets expect. That is what will determine whether this drawdown was the final stage of deleveraging or the start of something deeper. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, leave your comments, and remember, this is not financial advice, just my view on the market.